It's only played one run in this match. It's a big six. Karachi have won.
It's a young franchise, but they've done it.
What a stab!
It has not been the best of starts for the Karachi Kings. Two back-to-back defeats mean they head into today's clash feeling the heat. Their opponents, Quetta Gladiators, also faced a crushing loss in their opening match. It's yet another star-studded face-off featuring the old warhorses.
Again, Malik goes high and it's just gone over.
And the new poster boys of Pakistan cricket.
Times it beautifully over, extra maximum.
Can Quetta get their campaign back on track? Or will Karachi finally taste success and silence their critics?
Welcome back to Karachi. We've well and truly kicked off in style in this HBL PSL, and it's just nice to be back. It's an opportunity for the home side once again to redeem themselves, and they are up against Quetta Gladiators in match 6, live from National Bank Cricket Stadium. Welcome back to Pitchside. It's always nice to be here in Karachi. The buzz around the ground is nicely building up as always, but I think what they really want to see is a Karachi Kings win. We haven't seen that so far from them. They're yet to register points on that board, and I know that this is a great opportunity for them to reverse their fortunes. With me, I've got Danny Morrison, the usual. He's looking very sharp, very dapper with his...
You're in the leather today, aren't you?
We're all coordinated with all this white is going on.
Beautiful.
We've got a white theme going on in the studio today.
Yeah, I do. I like it on Baz. I had to wear this, you know, sometimes I think about the sun. It's actually about the cold. A bit chilly, still thunder.
Yeah, still thunder. That's why I'm wearing my leather bands. Well, nice to have you, Baz, in the studio as well. Danny, Karachi Kings, they need to lift themselves.
They need to give themselves a little uppercut and get their act together here, don't they? They really do, because... I just wonder about that batting line. I just think about in the draft in terms, and also the auction, of saying, hey, listen, guys, who have you picked? They're missing a bit of X-factor quality. We talked about the pace bowler, and then they rely on that sort of 2 or 3 batters, particularly at the top. When you look at Quetta, man, they bat deep. They're strong in their batting. So, yeah, someone's got to put their hand on. You can't rely on Shoaib all the time, Malik, and certainly the captain here, he got 80 the other night, but it just wasn't good enough. So that top order, for me, really have to come good. And then in terms of the bowling, yeah, they got back in the game. They got the Kings back into it with some of that death bowling. I think the last 5 for only 44, but they really do have to step up with bat in hand.
Baz, you said that they should have played a spinner. I mean, Tabraiz Shamsi in the previous game was not playing. Imran Tahir was not playing. They've got so many options in that squad, but it's almost like they're still struggling to get their combination right.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you drop 4 players after the first game, you obviously haven't got your combination right. You don't know what your combination, the right combination is. I think if you've got quality bowlers like Tabraiz Shamsi and Imran Tahir, they've got to play. You can't sort of chop and change straight away after one game. Now, you can look at Andrew Ty, he hasn't done much. You can probably play another spinner there. You have that lack of pace, obviously, but you do have quality spinners, so you can back them. The one thing that I would say in that squad is that in the middle order, they don't have that one dedicated finisher, one that could take the pressure off Shoaib Malik or Imad Wasim, somebody in that middle order who could actually take the game away. All the rest of the teams have someone. Quetta Gladiators have Iftikhar. They have somebody in that middle order who can power hit. Karachi have missed out there. I think they look at the draft and they think that they still don't have somebody lower down to actually take the game on.
Well, we're talking about squads and all the young players that we're seeing in the HBL PSL. Tayyib Tahir is another name that springs to my mind. I mean, we've seen what he's done in that Pakistan Cup. What can we expect from him?
He's a dynamic player. He's quite clever. He knows how to make runs. Very good against spin. And he's very good in the field as well. So he'll bring the energy in that squad. And if you want somebody in the middle order, I think they should go with him. In that national T20, he had a very decent strike rate too. So maybe you can look at him. Also, the fact that they've got him, and then they've got Qasim Akram, who played the first game and then was dropped. So once Qasim Akram was dropped, maybe like for like could have been Tayyib Tahir, but I don't know. It still almost seems that it's quite muddled. What Tayyib Tahir will definitely bring is energy in the field, and also he'll take the game on in terms of taking the spinners on. He's very big, a big hitter against spin, and he's pretty decent against pace. So in the middle order, he can slot in, but also the fact that you look around that Karachi Kings squad, the one thing that is missing is somebody also dynamic in the field. He's one of those.
Gladiator squad looks good. Danny, I mean, they've got that firepower at the top. Martin Kaptil, Jason Roy, they weren't really at their best in the first game. That's what we saw. They got literally done over by that brilliant spell by Ihsanullah. But overall, if you look at their lineup, it is a pretty good lineup, but they're pace bowlers as well.
Yeah, and stark contrast to the Kings. And you mentioned Guptill there and Roy, and then you look at Sarfraz himself and Umar Akmal, Iftikhar, Nawaz isn't a slouch either with the bat. And then you think about that bowling you just mentioned there. They've got pace with Naseem and Hasnain. So I like it. I like their balance. So they seem a little more assured versus the Kings. But the thing I like, just touching back on the Kings a little bit, is that up against this lineup, I think pace off. Pace off is a key, and that's why I like Shamsin. I wonder if he'll come in. The only concern I have is the dew factor. How is the dew going to? We saw a little bit of it on Tuesday, not so much Thursday, Baz, in terms of the dew, but I just wonder about tonight. I just think, and again, spin, geez, you know, bowling second, yeah, you do, but can you hold on to the ball enough, given that if you lose the toss, you have to bat first? Well, it's just the way it goes. You know, people want to bowl first, and they want to know what they're going to track down.
But even with the dew, the spinners have come into effect. Imad Wasim was the best bowler, obviously different type of bowler. Yesterday or last night, we saw Osama Mir bowl really well, where the fast bowling at times was struggling, even with the cooler conditions, with a slight bit of dew. So once you don't have that extra pace, which Karachi Kings don't have, they need to then back their spinners. I think Imran Tahir and Shamsi could both play because they're quality spinners. They're probably the best options to actually get you wickets.
From a Quetta Gladiators perspective, Baz, I mean, we talk about the team. There have been some consistent players that we've seen throughout. There have been some constants. One of them is Mohammad Nawaz. He's been with them since the start. What about their captain, Sarfraz? I mean, you look at the kind of form that he's coming in. You've obviously witnessed his 100 that he scored. But just having him in that squad, like, just on his leadership, what do you make of him as a leader? He's been with the side for a while.
Well, you know what you get with Quetta Gladiators. You know that their core will be probably the same throughout. And with Sarfraz as their leader, he's very good when things are going his way, and he's very good in animated and involved in the game. And that was Quetta Gladiator, one of the captain who's very much involved in the game. Every delivery, every game he is involved, and he wants to play every game. Even when nothing's on the line, you see that Sarfraz will not back away. He'll still play. The only thing that he now has to look at, they've got a great squad. You have to put that first game out of your mind. Obviously, it was a terrific spell from Ihsanullah. That does happen. But you look down that batting order. They need to get that batting order right. I don't think Mohammad Hafiz batting at number 8 is quite right. If you want, Hafiz has to bat slightly up the order. If you get that batting order right, I think they have a very decent squad.
Yeah, and you can use the services of Mohammad Hafiz with the ball as well. Bowls a bit of off-spin. But we're talking about Sarfraz Ahmed. You know, he's been one of the most consistent leaders of the HVL PSL. He also features in our numbers game today. Well, there's been so much talk around captaincy and leadership in the HBL PSL. We saw Babar Azam, you know, he's shifted boats now. He's gone to Peshawar Zalmi. But from a perspective of Quetta Gladiators, I think they've been very confident in giving him those games and backing him completely. He's been the captain of the Quetta Gladiators since the HPL PSL Season 1, and you can pretty much see the numbers are there in front of you. 72 matches, 73 matches that he has captained in for Quetta Gladiators, has been a consistent member, and really they seem like they all gel well together under him. Yeah, I think that's the one thing you talk about Sarfraz, Danny. I mean, there's always been talk around his form. He's been in and out of the national side, but Quetta Gladiators absolutely love him.
Sure do. One of the prodigal sons, and what I like about him, a different character, but very passionate, wears his heart on his sleeve, and he wants to do well, and he has had all that other captaincy experience at the highest level. So when I look at what he brings to the whole group and how much he wants to win, he is so determined. So it's a no-brainer that he continues to carry on, and he's so in love with the game, and you can see that he's in love with the game and he wants to do well. So yeah, long may it continue for Quetta.
Absolutely, he's got that energy and he tends to lift the side really well. That was the numbers game for you. All right, we're building up nicely here with the sun setting, obviously, and the buzz around the ground. I can tell you that it's going to be great today because it's a weekend. It's always great to have matches on the weekend because you can get that crowd in. We'll take a short breather and be back just in a bit. Well, it's a super Saturday today here in Karachi as we see the home side once again, and they are up against Quetta Gladiators. I can tell you that today is going to be absolutely electrifying in this very ground here. It's a Saturday. People are turning up right after their work, and it's just nice to see a full house. It's always great to see a full house. That's what we're expecting whenever we're here in Karachi and we're seeing the home side in action. I'm sure they're all desperate for a win as well. Karachi Kings winning. But we're talking about T20s, talking about variations. I mean, that's been one of the key things that we've seen in T20 cricket over the years, that it has evolved. Let's talk about variations. Talking about variations, let's head over to Arooj Mumtaz, who earlier spoke to Vernon Philander.
Now, we keep talking about innovations and improvisations in the game of cricket, especially in T20. Today, we're focusing on improvisations with the ball. I've been joined alongside with Vernon Philander. Vern, we saw Andrew Tye with bowl a couple of knuckleballs, the change-ups, the slow pace. What all does the innovation bring about in terms of the bowler, and how does it affect the batter?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic innovation. I think, of course, with batsmen evolving all the time, bowlers also have to be, one step ahead. I think we're talking about the knuckleball, and I'm going to just show you how the knuckleball is being held. So that is the position that you want in your hand. So it's almost, fingers almost go into the seam, and then all that is showing is the knuckles at the top of the seam. And I think the perfect exploitations is the man that you just mentioned, Andrew Tye. And I think the way he goes about it, I mean, the picture on the left, that's fingers on the seam, and the fingers on the right, that's the knuckleball. But what it does, I mean, just look at the release points. At the top of the seam there, you get absolutely no visual clues as a batsman. Of course, we're looking at from behind, so we still have a bit of a visual clue. But I think in front, that's how it looks. So as a batsman, you still think that his fingers are on the seam, and I think for me, the run-up is the most important as well. As you can see, he gives you absolutely no visual clues whatsoever. The one on the right, that's the stock delivery.
And that's what you're talking about.
On the seam. The one on the left is obviously the knuckleball. But as you can see, you get absolutely no visual clue because it's still seam up, the ball's still coming seam down to you as a batsman. Of course, the one on the right will be a lot quicker than the one on the left.
And you talk about that, like it's very difficult to pick up from a batter's point of view, because when you're facing, like we just saw in that, there's very little that you can pick up in terms of where the finger or the knuckle is actually placed. Now, from a batter's point of view, we've got a visual of how it plays off on the surface. The drop-in pace is pretty much the basic change up in the knuckleball, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what you want to do. I mean, obviously with the knuckleball, you want to take all the pace off. As you can see on the left, that's pace on. So you can see the ball's hurrying onto the batsman. The one on the right, at 116 k's an hour, there's absolutely no pace to work with. And I think with batsmen these days being so innovative, the knuckleball is certainly something that you want to have in your armory.
That's fantastic, the change-up that we keep talking about. And then with the knuckleball, how much practice for a young boy or girl out there wanting to learn? How much practice? How many balls, repetitions do you actually go through?
I think it's probably the hardest ball to master, you know, in the modern game. So it's a lot of practice. For me, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take the ball like that and keep throwing it just to get used to that. But of course, in bowling that knuckleball, you also don't want to drop your arm speed, you know, in bowling it. So you don't want to give the batsman any sort of visual clue. So for me, throw it, and then I reckon it's probably going to take you the best part of 8 to 10 sessions to master it.
Well, you heard from Vernon Philander, 8 to 10 sessions to master the knuckleball.
Interesting thoughts there by the big one. Danny, did you bowl the knuckleball in your time at all?
No, my fingers, see, look, I lost a couple, but I'll stop it. Funnily enough, it was starting to develop, and you tended to be more a little off-cut or even a slower outswinger, and sometimes you'd back yourself, you just drop the finger then, and it was almost like a one finger, just again take pace off and let it float at you. But now, I mean, massive, you know, back of the hand, slower balls, got lots of different cutters. He mentions the knuckleball. Some guys have a variation of the knuckleball. And of course, T20's dictated that. The bowlers are going to try and, you know, play catch up with the batters or try and stay one step ahead of certain batters in any given situation.
Baz, as a batter, I mean, one thing that we saw at that point of time was that they were discussing was that it's very difficult to read off the seam because you can't see as a batter. I mean, how do you play it then?
Well, first you've got to pick it and then you'll play it, but you look for things that the bowler does. You obviously study the quirks of the bowler. When is he going to bowl the knuckleball? How is he holding it? And you get those subtleties. The best of the players actually figure out or some mannerism of the bowler or figure out from the hand when it's coming down. And once you do that, then you adjust to it. And nowadays, because there's so many variations, or some bowlers who are bowling that consistently, and the change-up is the quicker one. So you basically set yourself up, which is easier said than done. Set yourself up for the slow one, with the change-up being the faster one. So you set yourself up for the slower pace coming on, and then if he bowls the quicker one, then that's the variation. But it's become so much in the game that you have to, that's why there's sort of analysis, so much video footage of every bowler that you study to get a bit of a clue to when it's coming down.
Because we're talking about this, Danny, I mean, who's been the best exponent of the slower ball? We've seen so many bowlers around the world in T20 cricket now. Who do you think does it really well?
I think they all have a good crack at it. Yeah, I mean, different guys. I mean, Tamar Mills, I liked what he did, and he sort of sometimes he can go around the track a little bit. I mean, the Mustafa Fazir, he had a good change of pace too early on there. And different paces will do, as Baz is just alluding to there, different styles of knuckleballs. I mean, Andrew Tye, when I saw him come into the scene, I was, you know, amazed at that knuckleball and the control of that. So all these different guys, paces, have got to be comfortable about delivering what they want to deliver. And that, you know, Ty Richardson as well, and an Australian guy, good leggy as well. So they all, you know, they all produce it.
I mean, it's pretty much a given now that if you are playing T20 cricket, then you have to know how to bowl that slower ball. It is an important weapon for any bowler, a fast bowler, whoever comes in this form of the game. We'll take a short breather and we'll leave you with some stunning visuals from Karachi. Back on the pitch side show, and I can tell you that the fans are all queued up outside for this one. Karachi Kings on a weekend. Let's find out how excited they are.
तो इसलिए क्योंकि वो हमारी लोकल टीम है, तो हम भी कराची के, तो इसलिए हम दिल से उनको सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं।
हम 2 मैचेस में तो हार चुके हैं, मगर इंशाल्लाह हम आगे बहुत टूर्नामेंट पूरा मैच पड़े हुए हैं, तो जैसे लाहौर ने 2020 में कमबैक किया था वैसे ही इंशाल्लाह हम लोग भी करेंगे।
फैंस हैं कराची किंग्स के, वो नाराज़ हैं, मगर जो गलतियां उसमें 2 मैचों में हुई है वो उसको लुक फॉरवर्ड कर रहे हैं हम लोग कि वो उसको बेहतर बनाएंगे, और जो अभी टूर्नामेंट लंबा है और बाकी के मैचेस है उसमें कराची जीत सकता है।
इमाद वसीम बहुत अच्छी कैप्टनसी कर रहे हैं और उन्होंने हाफ सेंचुरी भी मारी थी, वो आज अगर अच्छा परफॉर्म कर लें, और मोहम्मद आमिर बहुत अच्छी लाइन पकड़ रहे हैं। पिछले मैच में हैदर अली ने भी बहुत अच्छी बैटिंग की थी, कम बॉलों पे ज़्यादा स्कोर करा था, अग्रेसिव भी खेला था।
मैं जो सपोर्ट करता हूँ क्वेटा ग्लैडिएटर का, वो सरफराज अहमद की वजह से। मैं खुद विकेट कीपर बैट्समैन हूँ, तो मैं टोटल सपोर्ट करता हूँ क्वेटा को, और ये 8वां एडिशन है जो मैं क्वेटा को सपोर्ट कर रहा हूँ। और क्वेटा में जो है जैसन रॉय है और हसनैन है और आपका नसीम शाह है, ये बहुत अच्छा। इफ्तिखार है, ये भी बहुत अच्छी परफॉर्मेंस दे रहा है। नवाज़ है, बहुत अच्छी टीम है, पेपर में बहुत अच्छी टीम है। जैसे आपने देखा था फ्रेंडली मैच में जो इफ्तिखार ने 6 छक्के मारे थे वहाब रियाज को, इसी तरह आज इंशाल्लाह यहाँ भी रिपीट करेगा और अपनी परफॉर्मेंस शो करेगा।
इंशाल्लाह फिर से जीतेंगे, और 2 जो मैचेस हारे वो भी बहुत क्लोज हारे थे, और इससे कोई इफेक्ट नहीं पड़ता, आगे तो बहुत मैचेस हैं एंड द पास्ट मैचेस आर हिस्ट्री नाउ, सो वी आर गोइंग टू मेक हिस्ट्री टुडे एंड वी आर गोइंग टू विन इंशाल्लाह।
Well, it is the HBL PSL fever that we are witnessing, such loyalties, affiliations with all the franchises. Back on the pitch side show, and the news from the centre is that Karachi Kings have won the toss and they have elected to field first. There's been a couple of changes from their side. Amir Amin, the all-rounder, comes in. Imran Tahir, lots of talk around why they're not playing their leg spinners. Imran Tahir comes back in, and then you've got a couple of changes from Quetta Gladiators. Odion Smith comes back in, and Kes Ahmed, the spinner, is adding strength to that Quetta Gladiators side. Well, despite all the dew and the talk around the dew, both the sides have got their spinners in, and I've now been joined by Arooj Mumtaz. Arooj, कराची किंग्स की पहले बात कर लेते हैं। थोड़ा सा डिस्कशन चली थी पिछले मैच में कि दे नीड टू ऐड द स्पिनर्स, उनके पास ऑप्शंस हैं, तब्रेज़ शम्सी है वो, सो आप मुतमईन है कि उन्होंने ऐड किया है इमरान ताहिर को?
बिल्कुल, आई थिंक थोड़ा सा स्पिन ऑप्शन स्पेशली विद द एक्सपीरियंस जो इमरान ताहिर स्क्वाड में लेकर आते हैं वो ज़रूरी होगा, क्योंकि इनको जो हम पिछली दफ़ा भी बात करते थे कि एक विकेट टेकिंग बॉलर जो है वो कहीं मिसिंग लग रहा था इन टर्म्स ऑफ रादर आउट एंड आउट पेस और समबडी जो बॉल स्पिन करके विकेट ले सके। इमरान ताहिर उस किस्म के बॉलर हैं जो इम्पैक्ट करते हैं गेम को, तो आई थिंक दैट्स अ गुड चेंज। विकेट भी कंपैरेटिवली थोड़ा सा ड्राई लग रहा है, उस तरह से जो पिछली दफ़ा जो थोड़ी बहुत हरी भरी घास थी वो सब जल के ख़त्म हो चुकी है, तो इट शुड टर्न अ लिटिल बिट। सेकंड टाइम राउंड हम सब बात करें क्योंकि ड्यू आजकल कराची में है, सो इट विल अफेक्ट। सो इमरान ताहिर अप फ्रंट बॉल करेंगे, कराची किंग्स के लिए फ़ायदा होगा।
कराची किंग्स के लिए बिल्कुल फ़ायदा होगा। कराची किंग्स से ये भी फ़ायदा होगा, दे हैव समबडी लाइक मैथ्यू वेड। आई थिंक उनको कोई नहीं भूलेगा, एटलीस्ट पाकिस्तान में तो उनको कोई नहीं भूलेगा, बिकॉज वो जो सेमीफाइनल था जो उन्होंने इनिंग्स खेली थी पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ, इवेंचुअली वन इट फॉर ऑस्ट्रेलिया एज वेल। ही ऑल्सो फीचर्स इन आवर स्टार टॉक टुडे।
Matthew Wade, all of Pakistan remembers you for that semi-final innings, 41 of 17 deliveries. Just talk us through and make us feel that heartbreak all over again.
Yeah, I get asked quite a lot about that, especially since I've come to Pakistan, my first time, obviously touring here and been playing for a long time. So yeah, it's an often asked question. It's hard to explain. It happened really fast on the night, and yeah, luckily enough, I was on the right side of it.
Big Bash, SA T20, then now PSL. How difficult is it to adapt to different conditions quickly?
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time to adapt, especially obviously a lot more local bowlers that I haven't faced before. When you face international bowlers, it's a little bit easier because you've faced them in the past. But yeah, to get used to the local bowlers especially, and then conditions, takes a little bit of time. But luckily enough, we got 2 games on this venue, so starting to get used to the way that the local guys bowl and the wickets a little bit as well. So it takes a little bit of adjustment from country to country, but something that I'm learning each game and feel like I'm getting better every time.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but after playing for Australia, you did a stint as a carpenter.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Yeah, about 5 years ago, I started an apprenticeship. I was building my own house, and at that stage, I'd been dropped from Australia all forms and was just playing local cricket back home for Tassie. So had a little bit of time off, and yeah, got my hands dirty on the tools and did that for 4 or 5 months, and then got picked for Australia again. So yeah, it's funny when you take your mind off things and kind of see things from back a step rather than just in the bubble of cricket. It tends to help your game a lot. So yeah, it's something I tap into quite a lot on the road. Try and take a step back from day-to-day cricket and look from the outside in, which is quite hard to do.
You came from a sports family. Why cricket, and why was that the choice?
I wanted to play AFL, to be honest, but unfortunately I wasn't quite good enough, and yeah, I kind of stumbled into cricket a little bit. None of my family were really involved too much in cricket, so yeah, managed to stumble my way in, got a few games in rep cricket, and then yeah, found my way playing for Australia.
You had a little battle with cancer as well. Talk us through that story, a story of great determination and inspiration for people then coming back into international cricket.
Yeah, that was when I was a lot younger. I was only 16 at that stage, and yeah, got diagnosed with testicular cancer, and yeah, had a couple of cycles of chemotherapy, and then yeah, came out the other side. I was about 3 or 4 months of chemotherapy, and then played under-19 cricket for Tassie again, and yeah, kind of worked my way back, been in remission for a couple of years, and yeah, came out the other side. But something I can certainly look back on and puts everything into perspective.
Yeah, thanks very much, and keep on being an inspiration, mate.
Thank you.
For someone who's just stumbled his way into cricket, that's what he was saying, he's done rather well. And obviously with all the struggles, you spoke to him earlier on, suffering through cancer and all of that. I mean, kudos to him for the way he's come up.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been a fighter, and you can see that in his cricket as well. He's always wanting to compete, whether he's batting or keeping, and he's also always in your face when he's playing. So that's why throughout that process, you talked about him being an inspiration. He is, because he's battled so much, and then you also see that once he said that once he went away from cricket, he was dropped from all formats. He started doing carpentry, which is quite odd in terms of somebody who's been in international cricket and then taking it to another another department altogether, where he's getting his hands dirty. So obviously he's a very well-rounded personality, and that shows on the cricket field, and in pressure situations you want a guy like him.
अरूज कौन जीतेगा फिर आज? बड़ा सिंपल सवाल मैंने पूछा, इससे ज़्यादा सिंपल नहीं हो सकता।
बिल्कुल भी
Nearing the end of the show, तो मैंने कहा मैं पूछ लूँ, इतने आपके शहर में हम बैठे हैं, आप नहीं चाहते कि कराची जीते?
वो सवाल ज़्यादा अच्छा होता कि शहर के बारे में आप कुछ बताएं, बट ये सवाल आपने बहुत ही मुश्किल पूछा कि कराची के मुल्तान क्वेटा
Right, Arooj Mumtaz says कि Quetta Gladiators आज का मैच जीत जाएगा. So I think कराची के fans must be really disappointed. वो कराची से हैं, लेकिन वो कह रही हैं कि Quetta Gladiators जो है आज का मैच जीत जाएगा. But we'll let her off this time, because of course it's the HBL PSL, and may the best team win. Of course, a reminder that Karachi Kings has won the toss and they have decided to bowl first. Couple of changes for them as well. We'll be seeing Imran Tahir once again in action. I can tell you that the noise is going to be great tonight, but we'll catch you shortly after this break.